Right, let's go.
Hello and welcome to this episode 9 of the Just Discourse Podcast. With of course your hosts, Monotone Max, and the man with the beautiful name, Matt Harpe.
How you doing, mate?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
All good, thank you, sir. All good. Pleasure as always.
Good. Well, I'd just like to start by saying, please remember to like and subscribe, because obviously it's the most important metric that pushes this content out to other viewers. And if you find it helpful, then chuck a comment in the description below, etc., etc. We'll see how we get on.
Beautiful, lovely stuff, mate. What have you been up to?
So working as usual, very exciting as always.
Lovely,
building, growing, trying to get to where I need to be.
excellent.
How
Well, let's
about
see.
How about you?
I've been doing good. Chilling today. It's nice. Out of indentured servitude for yesterday. Final day in handcuffs.
You've
I'm a
made
free
the
man.
loop.
I know.
Well done. Very well done.
It is the epitome of a leap of faith.
Yes. Well, I have been thinking about this week, and I did just want to say to you that this is the point. Now you've made the jump, where you might have a little bit of self-doubt or anything like that, or maybe that niggling dickhead in the back of your head that we've all got telling us maybe we've made the wrong decision. I did it myself personally, and there are so many times that you're going to have that, but I think you made the right decision. From the conversations we had, I don't think you were happy with what you were doing, and you felt like you were just in the hamster wheel. Now you're out, and you can do whatever you want.
100%, mate. I feel the same, and I appreciate that.
And if you're doing something you enjoy, you're better off doing something you enjoy rather than doing something you think you can make money.
100%, mate. That's the way to live life. To be enjoying it.
Good. Right, today we want to talk about motivation/discipline. So would you like to start, or shall I?
After you, my friend.
Well, so I think most people get confused between motivation.
Motivation? Well,
Masturbation?
that's something different, mate.
Yeah, that's something a little
We'll
bit different.
We'll include masturbation later on. Don't worry about that.
There is a point I want to talk about masturbation as well.
Yes,
there, so
I'm sure.
we'll all enjoy that one. Motivation and discipline, because even myself, most days when I wake up, it is, even though I've got, I believe, a high level of discipline, which helps push me forward to get out of bed and move forward. Most days I wake up when the alarm goes off and I'm like, again, it starts. I've got to get up. I'd love an extra hour in bed, or another 2 hours, or just to roll over and say fuck you to the alarm and move on. But it's not going to get us to anywhere where we want to be. And as males in this environment and society, we've got to perform. No matter what, we've got to get up, get out there and move forward. And if you only do things on the days you feel motivated, you're going to achieve the square root of fuck all. Let's be honest. I think I've had, in the last 30 days, I could say probably 10 days where I've been motivated the whole time throughout the day. The other 20 days, which is 2/3 of the time, it's been those days where it's been a bit of a slog, and you're thinking, as we said, there's that dickhead in the back of your mind that's thinking, why am I doing this? But that's why I'm such a stickler for having high goals, or extremely difficult goals to achieve that will be worth it once you get there, because you can look back at your list of what you want to achieve throughout the year and you think, that's exactly why I want to do it. And if you don't have that clear journey or that clear trajectory that you're trying to get to, then it's easy just to say, oh, fuck it, and not bother with it. And that's where the discipline comes in. Is you've got to do these things on the days you don't feel you want to do them. Otherwise, as we said, you're not going to get anywhere. Like working out. Not everybody wants to work out every day. I don't work out every day, so I'm not going to act like I do. But I work out 4 to 5 times a week, because especially if I can get it in the morning, always want to work out in the morning where I can, because it gives you that mental clarity. And being an early riser like we both are, once you've already got up, done a bit of work, and then go to the gym and it's 9 o'clock, I've achieved more than 90% rest of the population, who are my competition, the ones I'm competing against. So if we can get into that mind frame and that disciplined pattern to ensure that you're doing those things every day, or you have your set times when you're going to do them, that gives you, I think that's where the motivation comes from. After you have the discipline to do those things, then the motivation like shoots in afterwards, and it's like, fuck me, look, I've done more than all these motherfuckers who I'm coming up against, so I've got to push forward and I've got to keep going.
I think it's the motivation will come with it. I think it's also a case of momentum. Like if you've got that habit built in already, you don't have to think about it. If you're getting up at 5 a.m, having a coffee while you doing your reading, and then after you had your morning shit, you're like, cool, let's fucking go. Then it just ingrains over time. Even if you're doing that every other day, so that's 3 or 4 times a week, so you're doing it less, so you're breaking it up. That make it maybe more sustainable for some people. But as you say, I think to make it happen, it's like 21 days or something. To get past that, it's then ingrained in you, and that is now just your life.
Well, I think 21 days is to create a habit, and then 3 months creates the lifestyle, doesn't it? If you can do it for 3 months, once you've done that consistently,
then it's sustainable.
Then it's sustainable. You're gonna move things around, or just ensure that you've got that time. And it's all about making time. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I wasn't one of those people that used to be like, I'll do it tomorrow or do it the next day, because tomorrow never comes, does it? You think, I'll do it tomorrow, and then the next day it's, fuck it, let's push it again. And before you know, you're 7 days, 2 weeks down the line, you've done absolutely fuck all.
It's a way of understanding how you work as a person and how you are motivated. I know by myself, I'm naturally very procrastinatory. So I'm going to make up a word. I know that if given the option or given the time frame,
procrastinating.
Yeah, if I'm given the option or given the time, I will just put things off and procrastinate. But I know that I need either an internal or external deadline. I need a time frame to get it done in. I need a consequence as well, and then I'll get shit done. Regardless if that is, for tomorrow or in a week's time or whatever it might be. I just need to make sure that there is a deadline for this or a consequence if it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then that's how things work for me. Might not work for everyone else, but I know for me personally, that's how I work in regards to actually getting anything done.
But I want to make 2 points of what you said there. Forgive me if I'm talking out of turn.
Go on.
But is that because you don't have a clear set of goals?
Maybe.
To motivate you?
Could be.
And the second thing is the cost of not doing them. You know the cost of not doing them, Matt.
Well, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Exactly. You're only going backwards. And
that's the consequence.
It's a waste of your life. Absolute waste. As I said about the 2 weeks thing to doing what you need to do, you're never going to get that time back. Without sounding too cliche, the only thing we really have in this life is time. But that can never come back. You can all get money and all that type of shit, but you can always get money back. You can always get all the bullshit material things back, other than family members and various different things like that. But time, once that's gone, that's it. And we discussed it previously in one of the podcasts. It's probably a massive motivator for me that I did waste so much of my younger years, because now that's like another main motivator for me. It's like, look, you fucking wasted 8 years of your life, or however many years it was, just achieving absolutely fuck all. So now you push yourself further back to where you need to be. So you've got to fucking get up and catch up.
And as we said previously, you might not necessarily be in this position now with the same drive that you have now, because if you hadn't wasted your time earlier, you maybe wouldn't have had the same fuel. You might be fine now, but you're likely to have gone down a different path, as opposed to and doing something that's maybe average or maybe decent or just enough. And maybe you wouldn't have then exposed yourself if everything was fine and you were comfortable and you were happy. Maybe happy is too strong a word. Maybe if you were content with that lot, you wouldn't even think to look and think, can I be better? Can I push myself more? Whereas and I think this is where you and I relate to it in different circumstances. We were at a low point, which then made us want to reach higher and claw our way out of it. So then we then reached for whatever we possibly could, even if it's just, and to begin with, it's just mentally just open your mind to possibilities, which then means that we had to go, instead of from 20, let's say, having a nice trajectory, and now we plateau at this point. We hit 20 and then went down, and we didn't like being down. So now we're actually higher than that fucking plateau would have been if we hadn't had the dip below it. So we maybe.
Well, I think of it as a springboard.
I don't know what I'm saying. Maybe it's not a maybe. For both of us, we needed that. Well, it's like they say, when you hit rock bottom, the only place to go is up.
Exactly.
So we needed to have that detrimental time and that unhappy time to give us the fuel to then shoot up and aim higher. Obviously, we're not there yet, but the aim was there, and
because we never will be.
Yeah, true, but and the goals will change over time. But the trajectory is there.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on your point of when you said happy. I think that's what a lot of us are told we want or we should look for, and I can only speak from the male perspective, but I don't think we should be looking for happiness.
Go on.
I just think, are you really going to be fulfilled if you're happy?
Well,
I think I'd be more fulfilled from achieving whatever it is that I wanted to achieve. You know, you might get a bit of excitement, and again, I just use the adjective happy loosely. But if you don't, like when you're chasing those goals, you're not going to be happy all the way through. You might get a little bit of happiness at the end, but then I find it, maybe just because over the last couple of years I've become ruthlessly ambitious, it's like a drug. As you get there and you're like, brilliant, this is great, but then immediately that feeling wears off.
Here's the question then. What is the definition in this case? What do we mean by happy?
That's an interesting point, because obviously happy or happiness is going to be different to each different person, isn't it?
So if we're taking it as an adjective, happiness is a state of well-being. It feels good. It's nice. If we were to say happiness in life should be happy. It's like, okay. So it feels good, state of well-being. Okay. I can get happy, doing this, spending time with my friends. I can be happy getting drunk to a certain level of alcohol. You're going to feel great. I can get Harry stabbing heroin in my ass. I can be happy lifting weights. I could be happy going down a mountain on a ski. I could be happy sitting in my room jerking myself off all day. Or I could be happy equally sitting in my room and stuffing my face full of crisps and chocolate. That feels pretty good. That's quite tasty, that is. That's nice.
Yeah.
But, again, is that the definition of happy that we want for life?
Well, just touching on those points, and then we'll progress. There was a few points in there that were long-term happiness. The working out, working on yourself. And then a lot of them were the short-term happiness highs, stuffing your face full of shit, which will give you that immediate buzz, and then you get the low afterwards. Masturbating, exactly the same thing. And it's really, again, if we are going to be looking for happiness, even though it's not something I think personally I'm looking for, I think I'm rather looking for fulfillment over happiness. But if we are going to be looking for happiness, as to say, we need to be going for the long term. The long term, as I just say, the working out, the eating healthier, making your, expanding your mind, becoming a better person, because then you can enjoy that happiness properly. So what's the point of getting to your goal, your destination, your final destination, and then you find out your body's just absolutely fucked and you're broken, you can't really enjoy it.
There's no point in that. And the happiness, to your question of should we be striving for happiness, the short-term happiness that I have mentioned there and the ones that you are alluding to, if I may make a supposition,
Go for it.
are the ones where we are told we need to be happy, but we're told we need to be happy, and we will attain that happiness via consuming stuff, via acquiring this, via, you see all these adverts for people have the new toothpaste and they're so happy. People are going on holiday, spending all this money, they're so happy. People are eating fucking Kellogg's fucking cornflakes, they're so happy. The idea being, or the inference there being, that the consuming and the materialist aspect of what they've got and what we're advertising is going to make you happy. Because who's going to buy anything where people look sad in an advert? The things that I listed, the ones that actually long term either cost nothing or very little. So going to the gym, 20 quid a month. Hanging with your friends, nothing.
And on that gym point, sorry to interject, is it frustrates me when you talk to some people and they're like, oh, I can't afford to go to the gym, and then they'll spend 50 quid on booze at the weekend. 4 times a month. It's
not even that. It's like, oh, you have one takeaway.
Yeah, one takeaway and that's it. Like, and your gym, you can go every single day.
Yeah.
How I think about it, especially with things like this, and I'm sure I annoy my friends and people like that when I want to talk about it, is with the gym, the more I go, the cheaper it gets. With all sorts of things like that. You get all these eco warriors that like, oh, stop, don't drive your car as much. But I say, well, the more I drive my car, the cheaper my insurance gets, the cheaper my tax gets, the cheaper, well, the car obviously goes down in value, so that's a little bit different. But I get more value out of what I've had to pay for.
You're using it more, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's a good
with
equation.
Clothes and everything like that. Winds people up sometimes, but it's kind of a good comeback to keep them quiet.
Yeah, it's a very good comeback.
But in terms of the motivation, all that, as I said, with that twat in the back of your head, you can't listen to it. Was it Tony Robbins that said, don't negotiate with yourself? You've got to ignore him, not Tony Robbins, the dickhead in your head.
Oh yeah, listen to Tony Robbins, yeah.
If you make a decision and you want something, just go for it. Like, for example, for me with my goals, I'll write it down, depending on what it is, and then I'll break it down into steps. So I'll break it down, this is what I want to achieve this year. Then I'll break it down into monthly goals, then break it down into weekly goals, and then daily goals. So what am I going to do today that's going to get me to my weekly goal? What am I going to do this week? What are the 3, 4, 5 things I need to achieve this week that are going to get me to my monthly goal? And I think we discussed it in the previous podcast. It's really you only need 3 things in each of one of those things. What 3 things am I going to do today that's going to sort my daily goal out? What are the 3 things I'm going to do this week that's going to help me achieve my weekly goal, monthly, yearly? And you'll be surprised. It's in Think and Grow Rich. When I read that book, I was like, this sounds like bollocks. This is so far-fetched. What, you write your goals down and the universe just magically manifests it for you. You do it and you're like, shit, this is actually working. This is like some weird ass conspiracy shit. And I can't remember who said it, but I think it may have been in that book where it says, when you get serious about life, you'll be surprised how serious about life and your goals, you'll be surprised how the world will conspire with you to achieve them. And it's massively impactful, not hearing things like that, but when you actually start going down the journey and the process and you realise, shit, this is actually working. I review my goals quarterly, my yearly goals quarterly to see where I got to. And I remember in February thinking, shit, like, these are some big motherfucking things I need to achieve this year. And I didn't think I was anywhere sort of close to them. And then I was talking with a friend at the end of the quarter, so the end of March. And I was like, okay, so what were my goals? And I was like, one of them was to start a podcast. Lost my pen.
He's so excited, he threw his pen away. I like it.
This is how excited I get about the podcast.
I like it.
Started a podcast. That's done. So I'll tick that one off the list. Easy. Only problem with that is I've now got to come up with another one because I did it so quickly. And then my yearly goal, another one of my yearly goals, I'm not far from achieving that already. And we are, 5 months in?
Mm-hmm.
Not even 5 months, we're 4 months in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, it's absolutely crazy how once you write them down, get serious about how or what you want to achieve, and then break down the steps into easy, manageable chunks, where that gives you if you have the discipline to do that side of things, the motivation is a byproduct of that discipline.
Well, it makes it real. Writing something down makes it real. It takes it from just being a thought or an idea in your head to being this is a physical thing, representation right down in front of me. It's printed out. Yeah, it's been brought into reality now, as opposed to just being an idea in your head.
Yeah. And then you work, as you say, you work on bringing that into reality with your daily habits.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's probably the most important thing when we talk about the motivation and discipline is your habits.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, whatever it is you want to achieve, the harder the better, the more you need to improve your daily habits. Now, don't get me wrong, we're all going to fall back every now and again. You know, one of my sort of vices, or, well, not even really a vice, for years I didn't really drink. And then more and more recently, I've been drinking more. And
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know, since I met you again. Started chilling with you again, the stress.
There you go.
But I've really noticed how it affects you. You know, from having, well, especially I'm nearly 30 this year, not far away. But you really notice how you get like 2-3 day hangovers. And it's not the same for everybody. I think alcohol, just for me, is one of those ones where the first day after, I get like cloudy brain, and I don't really get headaches or anything like that. But you just feel a bit shit. You waste the day. You lounge about doing fuck all. You eat a load of shit, and it's a complete waste of time. The second and third day, I'm so still lazy, and then I start getting depressed. Not like depressed along with top myself type thing, but like you think, oh fuck, why am I doing this? Like everything's a struggle. Everything you do, you're like, oh fuck this, I'll leave it to the next day, or I'll move on, or blah 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 blah. And by the fourth day, you're out of it, and you're like, I've wasted another 3 days of my life. What are you doing, you absolute knob?
Well, just in case if anyone noticed I'm a bit off today, that's because I am in that stage right now. So I'm in day 2. I think I compounded it. Whereas if we're going to use, Think and Grow Rich, and the sort of ethos of compound interest, I've used it the wrong way. But I've been drinking since Friday. So I think I had 4 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 5 and a bit on Monday, then I had 1 yesterday. No, 5 and a bit on Sunday, and 1 yesterday. Which
doesn't sound like much, but Matt doesn't drink.
I don't drink at all. I have the lightest of lightweights as it is.
So when it comes to that, you especially because you don't drink, you really notice the effect that it has, don't you?
Oh, I can't stand it yet. With that mic there, mate, just twist it so it's the where it position was fine, but the actual face of it turned to face you. That's it. Just a little. That's better.
There we go.
Yeah, much better. You were just coming out of just one side.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's better. But yeah,
and don't get me wrong. I think for what you did, it's you've got to celebrate things like that. So obviously Matt's finally left his job, made the leap to effectively being a self-employed fitness instructor, and that's something I know you've wanted to do for a while. And you celebrate with effectively the old you dying, and the new you is now taken off.
And it was just completely synergistic with the universe that we happened to bump into you on the way.
Exactly.
And you told me for it, so there you go.
Yeah. So we hadn't planned it, but randomly, I went into town, and literally as Matt was walking to the bar, we walked past each other. I heard someone screaming out my name, and it was Matt. So he was like, "Do you want to come for a drink?" I was like, Yes, of course I do. What a silly question that is.
I know. Wasting everyone's time with that.
And it was great to be able to celebrate that with you.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? That the end of that era of your life, moving forward to the next one. And, you know, all I can say is I wish you the best of luck, mate. And I think, you know, I'm really proud of you for making that leap, because it's not easy. Some people never do it. And they stay in the, you know, the same cycle of doing things they don't like because they're too worried about moving on to the next thing. And it's no good.
Well, this is, did you, or something I want to speak about upon that. Did you want to finish anything?
Crack on.
So there's an aspect of that I'm glad you brought it up, because the thing that drives me up the wall the most is people who are unhappy, are vocal about the fact that they are unhappy, but they do nothing to change it.
Mate.
And they complain about it, and they just repeat the same behaviour over and over, and it doesn't happen anyway. It doesn't change anything. It's like Einstein said, it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, as I've alluded to you before, of and the gratitude I still feel like every day for having reconnected with you and the other guys that I surround myself with at the minute, because we are influenced so heavily by the people we spend the most time with.
I think we said before, isn't it?
You are the average of the 5 people you are spending your time with. Part of the reason that I left that environment is because there was no growth there, because no one had a growth mindset. They were just that place of dissatisfaction with certain practices that are common in, unfortunately, a lot of businesses, but they did nothing to change it, and they just made it worse by not being positive about it and trying to change it by just being negative, and then making it worse by the idea of, you know, oh, you see, oh, these person can't do their job, so why should I, kind of thing, as opposed to, no, the right attitude would be, okay, they can't do their job, right? Or they're backbiting, or they're doing this, or they're talking behind my back, or they're stabbing other people, or whatever. So, okay, they're going to be gossiping, I'm going to be working. They're going to be talking shit, I'm going to be becoming better at what I'm doing. They're going to be like being lazy and not lying or whatever. I'm going to be getting up earlier, and I'm going to get more working from here. None of that was happening. It was just further detrimental levels and levels and levels. And it got to a point for me, is that I'm either going to become these people, or I have to get the fuck out. And I got the fuck out.
It's that catalyst, isn't it? That skyrockets you out of it.
Because it's something that was... It's the element of like boiling a frog. You don't... If you want to eat a frog, you don't...
Which is very nice, to be fair.
It's very nice.
I avoided frog for years because I thought, this sounds horrific, but it's like... It's better than chicken wings. Anyway, carry on.
To kill a frog, how they boil it, they'll put it in a pan, filled with water. Frog's happy. But if you put it straight to hot really quick, it will jump out and like hop away. If you slowly increase the temperature, it will get warmer and warmer until it falls asleep, and then it will die, because then it then boils alive from that point. It's the same thing that happens in a negative situation. Yeah. If you're in a place which is very slowly turn the heat up, it will kill you and you won't realise it.
Yeah. And you'll just be stuck in it.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy.
Whereas if you're in something that is imminently more painful, you're going to get the fuck out of there because it's hurting. Yeah. And for years, I was that frog. Until they turn the heat up too much.
And I think, you know, a lot of us can get stuck in that role, whether, you know, it's friends or family or, you know, people we hold near and dear. We think, oh, you know, we'll sort of stick with it, or we'll stick close to them because, you know, we've been friends for 15 years or all that bollocks. You know, sometimes you can help, you know, elevate your friends out of it, and other times they're just going to stay where they are. And as much as it's painful, you have to just leave them behind.
Because the main message I don't want this is not a bitch session from me. This is not me having to go at anyone in particular. What I want to instill in people that are listening is a lesson that you cannot affect what happens to you. you are the only person who can affect how you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that happens to you ultimately is your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a situation that you don't like and then it perpetuates to happen and you just don't like it, that is now your fault because you have not done anything about it to lead it or to make it better for yourself. No one's coming to save you. Only you can get you out of anything that is in any situation.
Whether it's stopping you from putting yourself in that situation, walking down that street that you think, oh, I'm going to get mugged or stabbed, or, as you say, in your position, staying in that role that you weren't happy with around the people that you knew weren't congruent to your beliefs, ideals, and what you wanted to achieve.
And the important thing as well, it may sound daunting, but you as an individual, anyone, has the tools to do that. Everyone has the tools to get themselves out of a situation they don't want to be in or to get themselves into a place that they want to be in. You all have that in you. Don't matter what self-doubt talk you have or what life experiences have thrown at you or what people around you are saying to you that are keeping you down and draining you a bit at a time. If you're surrounded by people who are constantly undermining your self-esteem, your perception of who you are as a person, because they're trying to keep you down, and they are threatened by you, and they don't want you to succeed or to be anything more than what they are. The people who criticize you are the ones who have less or perceive they have less than you do. Mm-hmm. No one who's ever achieved something or fulfilled in themselves is criticizing anyone else or talking shit about anyone else.
No, and I read the other day, which is quite profound. You always hear, and I be careful how I say it, but I'm not going to be careful. You hear the fucking idiots saying, "Oh yeah, but the rich only get richer." Like, those people with that kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about it before, but I can't remember who I was listening to. But they basically said, "Yeah, the rich do get richer, and the poor do get poorer. Why is that? Because the rich listen to the rich. They listen to the positive people that are going to push them forward, the people that are on the same trajectory as them, or the advice that they need to get there, they're going to listen to from the rich. Whereas the poorer that are on the downward spiral are the ones that listen to the idiot that's never going to achieve anything. And they're like, yeah, I agree with him. And it's like, well, if you agree with the bloke who's never done anything, achieved anything, or is going anywhere, obviously you're going to be going down that way. Mm-hmm. And I said it to one of my mates the other day. It's like, well, you don't take advice on how to buy a house from a tramp, do you? No disrespect to the tramp, but he doesn't live in a house. So why are you going to take advice from him? It's like, listen and take advice from the people that have achieved and done the things that you want to do. Otherwise, what they're saying is completely fucking useless. It's absolutely pointless. But there's no point asking me how to be a professional footballer because I'm not one, and I never will be. So my advice is totally irrelevant. Yeah,
absolutely.
And then you touched on the growth mindset, which you're going to lose a lot of friends when you decide to get serious about your life. It does happen. I think we've all experienced it. But the crazy thing is, you're not going to lose everyone. And the thing I didn't appreciate when I did get serious about my life and start pushing forward is there are some people that you did not think would step up with you. You thought, it's going to be hard, but, I can't really hang around with them anymore. I can't really see them anymore because, it's not congruent to my goals and the levels that I want to get to and achieve. But you'll be surprised the people that actually come out and you're like, shit, did not expect that of you. And it's great in a way to see them. I suppose in a way you can't really take responsibility for it, but they've seen you level up and they're like, right, fuck it, I'm going to do that as well. They can do it, I can do it, and they step up with you, and it's fantastic to see that.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who kind of removed himself from sort of everything to focus on his goal. But he was gone for like a year and a half. He was still geographically here, but he was just so in focus on it, he didn't really talk to anyone for about 18 months. But he's come back now, and he's like, I've achieved exactly what I wanted to achieve. This is now a sustainable trajectory and progress that he's on. And now that I've got that, now I'm back. And beyond that, nothing else had changed about him. He was still the same guy, still the same dude. But I was just like, because I'd recognised in the past previously to that how driven he was, but I hadn't realised how driven he was to have the discipline to just remove himself from every distraction for 18 months, including us, and then come back and be like, this is what I need, that's what I needed to do, and now I'm exactly where I want to be.
No, sometimes you need to, I unintentionally did it myself, my business, when I got that started. I wanted to achieve that goal so badly that everything else fell by the wayside. Some things I neglected and I shouldn't have, friends, family, health, but other things, drinking, smoking, hanging out with the people that aren't going to level up to where I am, or, aren't going to help push me forward, you lose them and you avoid them, and that's the positives. But once you get effectively the blinders on and you push yourself forward, it gets a bit intense, but it's worth it. And one of the main things I neglected, and I've found since I've been practicing it more, is gratitude. Gratitude for everything you have, everything you've achieved, everything you've done, the people in your life that have helped you, the people in your life that haven't helped you, those lessons you get from people that they fucked you over or something like that, and that's been a kicker for you to move forward. And that's why, as I said, it's not easy every morning to wake up and be like, right, I'm fucking motivated. But having the gratitude, simple things like waking up and you're like, most people don't have this luxury. And especially in the Western world, we completely ignore the rest of the things that happen in the rest of the world. And I personally haven't experienced most of it, so I can't speak for their experiences. But all I speak for is I wake up and I'm so lucky, one, to have woken up, because I could have died. That would have been pretty peak. That could happen to anyone. Two, to have a roof over my head, food in the kitchen, job to go to, car to drive. And when you get stuck in I don't want to say hamster wheel, but you get stuck with the blinders on, you forget those things sometimes, and you just focus on that shit things happen, and then it starts getting you on that downward spiral. And making sure you practice gratitude daily, I can't stress enough. It's like one of the best things you can do for yourself, because it really amplifies what you've achieved. Because if you're grateful for, and I this is one of my worst traits, is, we've said it before, I'm always pushing for the next thing, because I'm so driven and ambitious to get where I want to go. I often forget to feel grateful for what I've already achieved. And, rightly or wrongly, sometimes it's helped me, but a lot of the time it hasn't, because it's kind of like the David Goggins things, isn't it? And I'm terrible with David Goggins, because he's one of my, I like to call him disciples, and it's part of the
You might be using that word wrong, but go on.
Maybe not disciples, but Think and Grow Rich. So Napoleon Hill said that when he goes to bed every night, he envisions being sat around a table with 12 people that he respects the most for their goals, their achievements, or their ability to. It can be whatever is important to you, fitness, business, whatever it is. Now, I don't physically practice this in the sense that I sit in bed and think about it. 'Cause it'd be weird to be in bed Thinking about 12 other men.
Well, whatever you do when your good lady's not around, mate, that's fine.
Exactly. But effectively, it's like that voice in your head is, instead of having the negative voice in my head, I have, various people, David Goggins being one of them, who's in my brain saying all of the positive / motivational stuff he says. A lot of it it doesn't sound positive on the face of it, but when you get hold of it and you listen to it and it fucking drives you forward, it's great. Like when and my main one is, you're a fucking piece of shit. You need to keep going. Keep pushing forward. Do you think you've achieved what you need to achieve? No, you haven't. You're a fucking useless piece of shit. Keep going. And, to some people, they're fucking, he's called me a piece of shit. I hate it.
That's my exact fucking same thing, mate.
But for me, it's like, fucking yes, keep fucking going. Like, pushing forward. Like, and I just love it. Just one of those things that you've got to have those positive affirmations in your mind to push you forward when the times get hard, because it's going to get hard. Life's not always fucking fun, and you're not always going to be happy. And that was my point with the happiness thing is, I don't really, maybe we are all seeking happiness, and obviously happiness is different to everybody. But for me, if I can seek those achievements, I will get happiness in that, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's about, life is not a binary black and white system. Life is nuanced. The happiness you want to choose, it's about picking the right happiness. It's about choosing the right thing to go for. That is the thing that's going to be happy. So, like, we don't want short-term happiness all the time. Sometimes it's okay, but not all the time. Long-term happiness, the most of the time, is what you want to go for. So let's say the split is 90% long-term happiness, 10% short-term, for example. Give or take 10% either way, but you want the majority of the happiness that you're going to get to be something that is long-term, because then that is long-lasting, it's sustainable, and it's going to return greater rewards to you than if it was just short, like quick, because then it's fleeting, and then you're chasing that dragon over and over from that point. So the happiness is something that is, you can then build your foundation of your life on, as opposed to just something that is a fleeting moment. That's what you want your happiness to be, whatever that is for whoever you are.
No, I agree with that.
Which you're not going to get from a materialist consumerist society, where materialism is fleeting.
Yeah, and that's it's pushed on us massively these days, isn't it? Go
incredibly
to work,
hugely.
Get a job, buy your house that you want, buy the car that you want, get the clothes that you want, blah 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 blah. And I've never really, obviously I've thought I would enjoy those things, and then you get there, you get to that destination, you realise it's not really that enjoyable. The growth and the push to get to that level was really the enjoyable part. And simple things like exercise, you do get genuine enjoyment out of that, knowing that you've pushed yourself as long as you have. Because some people exercise and they don't really exercise, do they? They do the time game rather than the number count game. But really, you want to push yourself as hard as you possibly can, way further than you think you can get. And sorry for sucking on David Goggins' cock all day, but I'm pretty sure it was David Goggins that said, once you think you're at your limit, you're only 40% of the way there. Is it him?
It sounds like something he would do.
And it was basically saying that, the first time your head tells you, but I said I'm done, you're only 40% done. So you got to push yourself the extra 60%. And when you get there and you get to the end of it, you get that real elation from thinking, fuck, like, even I didn't think I could do that, and I've gone and done it. Do you know what I mean? So you get that. I don't really know. I can't really explain what it is, but you get that real joy and fulfillment for realising I beat myself rather than anyone else, because it's kind of irrelevant. We like competing, and I would say competition is good. When I work out with somebody else, I do way more than I'd probably do on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm fairly disciplined in that regard. So you've got to have that. You've got to create the competition, whether it's with yourself in your own mind, or with a workout partner or business partner or girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, whatever you might be into, to help push you forward. And that's just one of the main joys of life. And I would say I would use the word joy over happiness, because joy is the feeling, isn't it? Is happiness a feeling, or is that a destination?
That's a good question. Joy is 100% a feeling. Happiness, I would say as well. Maybe they're just synonymous.
Yeah.
But I think joy is an absolutely wonderful feeling. But joy, I think, is much more powerful. So you're not going to get joy from eating a load of crisps. You probably have fun. You probably have fun. And you'd be like, "This is nice," but it's not going to bring you joy. Like winning crossing the finish line in a race. That's joy. Lifting heavier than you had before. That's joy.
Especially when you didn't think you could ever get to that level.
Exactly. Yeah. This right now, this is joyous.
Just looking into each other's eyes.
Staring.
Deep breathing.
Why do you think we have headphones on? Engage in some ASMR. Yeah, there is a distinction. Absolutely. Joy is the more extreme, higher end of the emotion there.
But then, we did touch on it earlier. Self-doubt is, I think, what a lot of people struggle with. Is they get to the level, or they think they want something, and then the dickhead in the back of their head, or their mate, or their parents, or their colleagues, or anything, they'll say, "Oh, like, why do you want to do that?" Or they'll shit on their plan, idea, dream, whatever it is, and that will create the self-doubt in your mind, thinking, "Am I doing the right thing? Is this right to do this? Do I really want this?" And I think you need, especially as males, because we're in the unfortunate position. I'd say the unfortunate position is, I know there's a lot of feminists that spout all this bullshit these days about what women should do, and you'll be so much more fulfilled if you get a career and blah, blah, blah. Let's be honest. The meaning of life is to recreate. Period. That's it. Everything else is a bonus. Now, all we can do is the first pump, and that's about it. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's 10 seconds, 10 minutes.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
Exactly. That's as males. That's all we can provide to this situation for the first 9 months.
Yeah, you're a sperm donor. Yeah,
effectively we're sperm donors. So
yeah. What's the other value that we have beyond that?
Yeah. Well, so women, they have this beautiful ability to create and bring life into this world. Now, unfortunately, we can't do that. So we, other than the Kickstarter, sperm donor, so we really have to find other ways for fulfillment and enjoyment. And I think that is success and providing and protecting for your family.
Well, because what we want to be...
And sorry, my point on that, going back, is that...
Beg your pardon.
Women have that beautiful ability to love and care in a way that men just can't compete with. Don't get me wrong, I come from a very loving family, and my father is a very gracious and loving man.
Likewise.
But he could never be like a mother figure. And whether that's because he's a strong male role model, it's not what he's designed for. It's not what he's hardwired for. And for us, as males, we really need to push to be like that, to be the role models for the younger generation.
Yeah, in human development between babies, everyone up to a certain point is born female. And then if you've got the if you've also got the Y chromosome, at some point it then feeds in, and you're like, okay, cool, we're going to change the physiology from now on. So the brain is formed to a certain extent before the Y chromosome kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone, whilst they're in the female stage, has their brain is meshed like this. So the neural connections are in a handshake position where you've got like the emotional parts of it goes back and forth between the logic parts of it and the creativity and the analysis part of it. The Y chromosome does this, where it splits it, and it's now parallel to each other. So they're no longer in that handshake position. They're like two fists put together. So you can still access both of them, but it's a lot harder. And
do you think that's why women tend to be more intuitive?
Yes. This is a really, really crude way of describing it. So I do apologise to any scientists who know what they're talking about. But this is effectively why there's such a difference and why women, in quotes, are more emotional. Even though if we include anger as an emotion, men are more emotional.
100%.
Which is why they have that greater, let's say, why there's that concept of female intuition, why there's females are more empathetic, they're more sympathetic, more kind, more understanding. Again, it's a generalization, so just overall, that's the case because of the neural connections that are there. So there is a difference. So to your point about women have this beautiful ability to create life, it is unparalleled how beautiful that is and then just how precious that is as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as the sex that can't do that, we need to be as fucking valuable to our partner as we can be to make sure that she is perfectly safe and protected and looked after and cared for, and we can provide the best we possibly can for them. So she's safe throughout the whole thing. She will survive to carry the baby to term, whereas in past women died of just being pregnant or died of giving birth. And then obviously to then have everything we possibly can to give to our children while they're growing up, because that's what we want to be able to do. Because whilst it may be harder for us to have that emotional connection back and forth between the two, I think it's just harder for us to have the emotions interwoven with everything else, whereas women, they have it interwoven, so they can be multiple things at the same time while being logical and analytical and emotional and compassionate. I think it's harder for us to go back and forth.
Is that why men tend to be very black and white?
Yeah, I think just with the emotion as well, I think it's a harder thing for us to control. I mean, speaking for me personally, it's not about a case of control. I think it's a case about understanding my own emotions, which has taken a long time to understand.
Because we avoid them.
It's because we aren't given the neural tools to fully deal with them the way that females can. So it's not impossible. I think it's just harder, and I think we have to. I think it's a case we have to learn that, and we have to train ourselves to do that. Whereas I think women kind of naturally have that understanding. Again, I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but that's from what I understand. This table here. We're not bringing Matt Walsh into this, okay? So yeah, with our partners once they're pregnant, we need to have everything possible available for them that we can to ensure that they are safe and the future baby will be safe as well.
Yeah, and we need to be valuable, as you say. We've got to be. We've got to provide something other than the sperms at the beginning.
I mean, don't get me wrong, ladies. The sperm is very important. We are aware how important it is.
Yeah, we are. We do realise that it's far more important than the 9 months work you have to do, and then the 10 months aren't. It's like the 10 years at least afterwards.
I mean, that's it.
But we don't want to take it away from you.
No. I mean, you do a great job as well. It's fine. Hats off to you.
Yeah.
But
I think that's why you see. You know, we worked in sales environments before, and don't get me wrong, you'll get the odd lady who is motivated and driven to be in that environment, but it's hardcore, isn't it? You know, some of the places we've worked, it's been so male dominated because, you know, we're willing to get up 2 hours before everyone else. We're willing to work 2, 3, 4 hours later than everybody else. We're willing to have the difficult conversations, have the, I don't want to use the word aggression, but we're willing to.
It is aggressive, particularly the
push.
Shared environments that you and I have worked in. There was some aggressive assholes in there.
and to be able to take it and use that as motivation to move forward, rather than some of the little fucking snowflakes these days are like, oh, he said something mean to me, and now I'm crumbling. Like you've got to take the shit and bounce back from it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And avoid the self-doubt that can be projected onto you from other people. At the end of the day, as you mentioned, you're the only one that can control how you react to a situation, and for that reason you have the choice. You can either choose to allow the stupid shit that people say to you to create the self-doubt to kill your motivation, or push you down that road of maybe I'm a useless cunt, blah, 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 whatever, blah, blah. Or you can take it as, fuck this guy, I'm going to be better than I was the day before, better than... I try to avoid using other people as self-motivators to be better, in terms of, I know doubt is one of the strongest motivators for most people, is he doubted me, so I fucking went and did it.
So the doubt that someone else has of you rather than doubting oneself.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, self-doubt can be one of the biggest killers to success, because obviously it's you talking to yourself. And if you have that constant, when someone else says something, they say it's over, done, gone. But if you've got the self-doubt in your own mind, it's with you all day long, 24/7, and it repeats itself. I don't know about you, but when I think about doing something, my brain will tell me it like 4 or 5 times. Imagine that dickhead that said something that hurt you. I put it in quotes, hurt me, because I don't really tend to get hurt by what other people say, but I know a lot of people do. But imagine that guy being in your brain and telling you it 4, 5, 6 times, over and over again. And then 8 hours later, you remember it, and he does it again and again and again. Like that. For a lot of people, I can see why that can be crippling. But you've got to control that. You've got to control that internal voice. And as Tony Robbins says, don't negotiate with it. Make your fucking goal, work out how you're going to achieve it, and fucking go after it with everything you've got. You give your power to somebody else when you allow their opinion to affect how you work, operate, and react.
Like we were speaking about in the previous episode, what you just said about that little voice in your head, I think the physical requirement we all have, I think by utilising that and engaging in that, minimises that voice, if not eradicate him completely, temporarily of course, which will then, I think, will then give you the personal sovereignty we were speaking about previously. I think that you have that voice because you haven't done something yet.
Yes. You
haven't achieved that hard thing yet because it's there, but it's not there trying to motivate you. It's trying to be a little bitch and trying to get at you. And if you can hear that voice, you're like, I haven't done it. So that little voice should be a little precursor, not to listen to him and do what he says, but listen to him and be like, no, fuck you even more.
Yeah.
Because that voice is good. If you can hear that bastard and be like, oh, this little prick's talking, I need to drown him out, let's go do something. And then he shuts him out for a day. Yeah. And then you got to repeat it again for the next day.
And it's all about confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence. And you can only gain confidence by doing and achieving things. You can't be confident in anything that you've never done before. You can have self-confidence in your ability to achieve other things.
Yes.
But again, I think that for us is built on the fact that we have achieved. We have done those hard things in life that we didn't think we could do. So that's transferable to the next thing we do.
And also, I wanted to instill in the fact that, I don't know about you, mate, but I'm an idiot. And
I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I do things and I'm like, you're an absolute fucking moron. How have you done anything in your life? But then... And I think you push forward.
The point
you don't listen to it. You move on.
The point I'm making as well is that, coming back to the confidence part of it, the confidence to do anything, to have the tools to do anything you want to do. If 2 idiots like us can do it, anyone can.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll start by saying when I was in school, I really fucking struggled because I was not I was not a book smart person. I could not sit in a class, and I still cannot to this day sit in a class and listen to a lecture. So honestly, it switches me off immediately. Unless there's someone, for example, like a Tony Robbins or a Patrick Bet-David or something like that, who's speaking specifically on things that I feel passionate about, I switch off. And I cannot do it. And in school, because they were talking about things that I really didn't have any interest in, it was very difficult to concentrate and actually listen and take in what I felt was bullshit being spouted at me. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what would be a really cool lecture to go see?
Go on.
Would be if Graham Hancock gave lectures.
Oh, mate.
That would be so cool.
Mm.
That'd be really cool.
I'm sure. Well, he must do, surely.
I don't know what he does. I don't know if he has any speaking gigs or not. It'd be cool if he did.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing to see that.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
But going back to the confidence part is, the more confident you are in your ability, which is self-reaffirmed by actually achieving things, the easier it is to not listen to that dickhead.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, we've all got, no matter what level we are, you're always going to have that dickhead in your head. The little self-doubt, you can't do this, why are you doing this, give up, do something else, blah, 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 blah. But the more you grow and achieve, the easier it is to not listen to that little twat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I've really noticed over the last sort of 5 years, as I've began to push myself forward, set these goals, and do whatever I can, just become relentless in the pursuit of achieving them, is it's easy to ignore. Don't get wrapped up in your head with listening to the self-doubt, and never give up. Seriously.
Your point previously about having written something down makes it real, or having words on a page makes it real. There was, for my friend's, what would this be? My friend's 18th, so 9 years ago. He had a party at his house. We left, and there was a corner shop opposite his house. So this was around Reading Festival time. Mm-hmm. And they had a big energy drink banner across the side of the bars outside. And I was on the railings leading up to it. Obviously, being 18 and drunk, we nicked it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I took it home. I was like, that's really cool. So I put it up on, originally in my bedroom. I was like, that doesn't work. So I put it up in my garage. So I had it on the wall where I've got my kick bag and my weights and everything. And the banner was a relentless banner.
That's a good one, to be fair, yeah.
So, and I didn't put it there originally. Originally I had it in my room. But it was at one point, I was like, you know what, that's a good thing to have on the wall when you're training. And it made such a difference. Just having that huge ass poster. It was literally probably 4 feet across. So he put that up on the wall, and it was, have that on the wall while you're training and sweating. You've got music blaring, and you just see this huge fucking sign that says relentless on the wall.
But that's the mad thing about your conscious and then your subconscious mind is every time you looked at that, you didn't go in the gym and read that once. Every time you looked at it, literally, you could look at it 130 times. I don't know why I picked that number, but a random fucking number. While you're working out, every time your brain would have gone relentless.
It's subliminal.
Relentless. And that's why it works in advertising. You know, like say F1 or something like that. Mm-hmm. You think, why has Rolex got 145 fucking signs on the wall? That's because every time you see it, you don't just read Rolex. You read Rolex, 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 Rolex. And that obviously pushes the conscious vision or the conscious experience into the subconscious, which for advertising purposes is obviously great.
Yep.
Because then you remember it, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're more likely to come back to it over and over again if you're like, you know what I can do with a watch? Let's look at Rolex.
And that's when it comes down to the, we spoke in your podcast when we were on Harpe and On, is the personal self-affirmations. And that's why you have to write them down and read them daily, a couple of times a day, because it just solidifies in your mind, your brain, what you are trying to achieve. And if you don't have that, like I said before with the goals and all those types of things, it's too easy to drift off, too easy to drift away from your lane. You know, if you're always looking over the fence, you're not focusing on what you're doing. If you're always worried about what other people are doing, you're ignoring where you need to be and where you need to go. And that's why they say stay in your lane and do what you need to do to get to where you want to go, because fucking John next door doesn't want to get to the same place you want to go to. So why are you following or listening to him? Listen to the people that have done and achieved the things you want to achieve, and fucking, even in terms, follow them. Follow their advice. You're never going to be able to follow the exact steps, but from listening to all these motivational people and the people that are in your field or have achieved the things that you want to achieve, it's going to build you a blueprint or a staircase in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And for me, that's, sound like a fucking stuck record, always going on about it, but if you haven't got any goals, as David Goggins says, you are a useless piece of shit. Because you are. Because what use are you to the outside world if you're not pushing yourself forward, if you're not progressing to be a better person? From experience, when I had no goals, what do you think I did? I drank, I smoked, didn't do anything of any use or good to the world, the people around me or my community. Just made me a fucking useless piece of shit. And you've got to choose to be better. You have to, otherwise you're an embarrassment to your ancestors that fought and died to put you in this position.
Yeah, and these ancestors were not nice people. These ancestors were they weren't the generous and the caring ones that survived from that point. They were the ones who managed to out-murder their competitors to make sure that their progeny survived to become us who we are today. Whether
they wanted to or not. I mean, I think we forget or willfully ignore how difficult life must have been in the previous generations to think that everybody was happy or did what they wanted to do. It's really only in this generation and maybe half of the previous generation where they've actually been able to have the freedom to be able to do what they want to do.
Happiness would not even have been a consideration. It would have been just survival.
Exactly, survival.
Yeah, this is a contemporary luxury that is even... Life is so easy now that we can even have the ability to be like, oh, I need to be happy now.
And I think that I can only talk from my own experience, so that's why I use the West as an example. That's why there's so much bullshit going on these days.
Unmet needs.
Yeah, everybody is so worried about how, stupid or fat or black or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it none of it's congruent or positive to help themselves, their community, to push forward. And in most people's pursuit of happiness these days, that's why I don't like to use happiness as a goal or a trajectory, because in most people's pursuit of happiness, they fuck everything up. And I think that's what we're seeing in the West these days, is everybody just wants to be happy. But then they never really understand or take the time to learn what would make them happy. They virtue signal that, if I do this and I'll be a nice person and blah, 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 that's going to make me happy and it's going to make people like me and blah, 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 blah. And I think for most people, in most respects, it actually tends to have the opposite effect. You get the fake veneer that you are happy because other people like you and all that bollocks. But really, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, is you have to achieve great things to protect, provide and look after your family. Otherwise, what are you actually here for? Like, seriously. And I feel bad for a lot of people. They wake up and they've got no real direction where they want to go, because they've had no proper role models, or they don't listen to the right content, or they just watch a load of bollocks on Instagram. And I know we've discussed it before, and I won't lie, I've slagged off social media many times for this, for pushing bollocks onto your feed that you don't really want to see. But when I go through my Instagram, because of the people I follow, the videos I watch, the algorithm actually fucking motivates me, because all that comes up are your Jockos, your David Goggins, your Tony Robbins, your Grant Cardones. All of that stuff is just perpetually fed into my mind, which reinforces my motivation and helps me with my dedication and my discipline in order to keep pushing forward. Because as we said, most days you wake up and you're like, fuck, I've got to do this shit again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all, you're not always going to do stuff you like or want to do, but if you've got a clear bit of spit coming out of your mouth,
You've got a clear spit. Well done,
exactly,
mate.
yeah. If you've got a clear path of where you want to go, all of the stupid shit just falls by the wayside. All of the, oh, he hurt my feelings, all of that fucking absolute bollocks. You got your blinders on. Just ignore it. You move forward. He's irrelevant. He's not helping me. Unless you're helping me to push forward in the positive aspects of my life, I don't even argue with those people anymore. You used to get, someone would say something, you'd be like, fuck you, man, blah, blah, blah. Have a big fucking argument with them. I just completely ignore it. Absolutely not. And one thing I've noticed since I've stopped entertaining that bullshit is, one, people don't even try and talk to me about it because they know they're not going to get any type of response. Like, most negative people give you something negative because they want you to react. Once you react to it, they're like, yes, I've won. I've got the reaction I've wanted from him because I'm unhappy in my life or what I'm doing or whatever I'm doing, and I want him to feel the same way. But once you completely start ignoring it and fade it out, you'll be amazed how it disappears from your life, because people don't even throw it at you. People don't even bother because they know they're not even going to get any type of reaction. I'm just going to be like, cool, move on, keep going where I'm going, keep heading down the road that I need to be on to get to where I need to be.
Ignore and outperform.
Exactly. And what do they say? The best form of revenge is massive success. And that's something I live by. Is all of the haters, fucking people that doubted me, anyone like that, don't allow that to affect your sovereignty. Use that as motivation to keep pushing you forward.
Mate, I'm hanging on it. I love it.
And it's got to be done. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of dedication. But once you get serious with your life, I'm coming to the age now where, I'm nearly 30. I think we discussed it before. I can't pretend I'm young anymore. And I think one of the biggest kickers for me is when I was coming up to 30, I was thinking, shit, do I really want to be a useless piece of shit in my 30s? No. I want to be whatever I can be, experience everything I can in this world. It's all out there. You just got to fucking go and get it. And you are the only person holding you back. You just got to fucking choose to go and get it.
You are the only person holding you back, and you are the person who can give yourself the agency you need to go do whatever you want to do to then be whatever you want. Other people only hold you back in as much as you allow them to.
Yes.
You are the one giving them the power. They do not have overall governing power over you in this country anyway. Can't speak for other parts of the world. But the bad things that happen to you from other people is only as much as you allow them to.
But that was the Gandhi tactic, wasn't it? Is obviously they had British colonialism in India, and he effectively fought that by not reacting at all, by literally teaching his subjects not to allow the brutality of the regime to affect them, to the point where they got their own sovereignty. And it's madness that they managed to achieve it through non-brutality, whereas it probably isn't the only time in human history where it's been achieved. But I can imagine there's not many times where people have managed to gain their own sovereignty by foregoing brutality
and not rising to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, not rising to the debate. Well, it's like with the schoolyard paradigm of bullies. If you don't react to the bully's gonna get bored and move on.
Yeah. Or you learn to beat the shit out of that bully.
Yeah.
That's usually the best way. But we'll see. It's difficult to teach. Well, especially if the guy's fucking 4 stone heavier than you.
Well, it's like one of the previous guests we had on here, he got in trouble at school because he shattered the jaw of the guy who was bullying him with a skateboard.
Exactly.
And you're like, fair play.
And most one thing I learned growing up, which actually really helped me, was I was always very small, so I was always fighting people that were bigger than me. And bullies usually are only picking on people that are smaller than them. And when a smaller guy turns around and fucking smacks you in the jaw, and they realise, that fucking hurt, they think, shit. My only control over this situation was the perception that I had power because of my size or whatever. But when a smaller guy punches them in the face, and they think, shit, my power's gone now. Do you know what I mean? It's departed with the embarrassment of feeling pain from someone who's a lot smaller than you.
It's funny you say that, because I was only picked on a few times in secondary school. I think I got to year 8. This older kid came at me.
He came at you?
Huh?
He came at you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just near me. Not at me, it was okay. You know that thing that kids used to do where they would basically just be like a shoving match, so whoever was strongest would win effectively. So he was doing that, and I was 4 or 5 years into judo at that point. So I thought, okay, great. So I was training against him a little bit. I got this full force of this kid coming at me, like trying to push me. And so I was grabbing him by the neck, drop him on my back, and throw him over my shoulder. Yeah. And he just kind of hit the ground and was just like rolling around like winded. And there was quite a lot of his mates watching that. And again, they were all older than me and everything. Never had any trouble since, like after that point.
And then going back to the confidence thing is probably at the time, again, I'm not speaking for you.
Go on, speak
but
for
when
me.
It first started happening, you're probably like, fuck, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do in this situation? I haven't got the confidence in my own ability to be able to give this a go. But then when you did that, I bet you were like, fuck, that was easier than I thought it'd be. Right, where's the next dickhead? Like, I'm ready for you to come at me, do you know what I mean? Because obviously you're used to men coming at you at this point in your life.
Stop it. Is there not everyone's... No, I can't do it. I can't do it.
But, yeah, it was like, I suppose that changed your perception of what you could achieve to the point where you're like, fuck it, nothing else really is going to bother me.
Yeah, you're absolutely... And it was only years later that I actually had this exact thought process of, wow, I must have just had that sense of confidence then, that then other people could see.
Through your experience.
Yeah, and other people could see, and was why I was left alone.
Yeah. And then no one fucks with you, do they?
Yeah, no, for the rest of the time I was at school, literally not a single problem.
And I think especially for men, that type of brutality is needed. Yeah, you speak to your friends that are girls and all that type of stuff, and they're like, oh no, don't fight and all that bollocks. It's a requirement for males, I think.
And it's a requirement for them not to fight as well.
Yes, for
protection
and maternity purposes, etc. Yeah. Whereas that's what we're for.
Mm-hmm. We're expendable.
And that also transfers into the business world. You'll notice usually the mouthier dickheads that you deal with are the ones that are never going to be able to physically overpower you, and it's like a defense mechanism for them to intimidate you with the words, because they are not confident in their ability to physically be able to overpower you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas once you have that confidence, you notice it with not all boxers and MMA fighters, but most fighters, they're like the most humble people you've ever met.
Yep.
Because they know, look, you can speak to me however you like. If shit ever hit the fan, I'd knock you the fuck out.
It's not they knock you the fuck out, they'd kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they know they have that ability to do so. So they've got that air of confidence about them to not allow the stupid shit you say to affect them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. You get that people would be acting out and trying to assert their presence and their perceived dominance, because to call their small man puffery dominance is just adorable.
Because that's exactly what it is. It's
because
adorable,
they don't
yeah.
because they don't know themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't fully understand themselves, so they feel incredibly insecure and feel the need to prove themselves to the world. Well, the world is like, we haven't even issued you a challenge, so you don't need to be doing anything. So everyone's just kind of like perplexed or bemused, or in most cases pissed off by this person who, for some unprovoked reason, is being a dickhead to people. Well, there was no need for it at all.
And then the most of the main or the major fighters, it goes back to discipline, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is they've had the discipline to work on themselves, their body, their mentality, their strength, to push forward to the level where they are so confident in their ability that you don't need to worry about 90% of the bollocks that's out there.
Yep, no question.
And I think that's what a lot of people get stuck in, is they worry too much, and the self-doubt kicks in about all the bollocks that could happen. You know, I have it. You know, the people where you suggest something, and they're like, but what if this happens? And you're like, well, what if it doesn't happen? And that's what I think. When I'm setting these goals and trying to do this or do that, you can think about what if something goes wrong, but shit's always going to go wrong. But if you it's like, if you don't achieve anything and you take a loss, that loss is going to be 10 times harder than if you've achieved 15 great things and you experienced exactly the same loss, because you're like, well, I fucking annihilated these 15 things.
Mm-hmm.
That loss is a learning experience. I've lost one thing. Fuck it, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the next one. And that's why I think you've got to create and project a mindset that winning isn't everything, but you have to win as much as you possibly can, so that when you do lose, it's null and void. It doesn't affect you. And I've lived by the mentality, you either win or you learn. So you never lose. You only lose if you give up.
Mm-hmm.
Only losers give up. I'm not a fucking loser, so I do not give up. You've got to... Winning is the... some ways is the easy part. Because when you win, you don't really tend to learn anything.
Mm.
You know, it's like, oh, that was easy. Do the next thing. Oh, that was easy. I'll win. But then when something goes wrong, that's when the true measure of a man, you know, comes to the forefront. Because you have to push yourself forward with the knowledge you have and the experience you've gained from your experiences. Did I just say experience twice? I think I did. Anyway, it still makes sense. But, you know, you have to push yourself forward in those situations to keep going in order not to lose. Because if you don't give up, as we said, you can't lose. But if something goes wrong, then you really learn how... You learn about yourself. You learn about the courage of your conviction and what really you are as a person if you can push through the shit, which creates more confidence in your ability to keep going forward And then next time you do win, you think, fuck, look, the winning is more satisfying. You know, when you've taken a few losses and you finally get to that point, or you get to that milestone, and you're like, fuck me, I've done it. Whereas if you don't get to a milestone and you've lost fucking 10 times, and you've achieved nothing, I can imagine that'd be so demoralising. I think that's what most people worry about. And we spoke about it in schools. You know, the school system sets you up to think if you fail that you've lost. Whereas, really, because in school you learn the lesson and you do the test, don't you? But in life, you do the test and you learn the lesson, and you build from that. And it's a completely different and backward concept in the way we teach. I understand why they do teach in that way, because how else are you going to do it unless, you know, getting hundreds of people together in the classroom is the quickest and easiest way to try and learn something, rather than sending everybody out on practical assignments and environments. But that's why when you're not in those school environments, you need to push yourself into the hard things. You know, even simple things like going to the gym. Like having that confidence to push forward and go to the gym. Like Will said when he was on the pod previously, like, you're not always going to feel like you want to go to the gym, but you have to just fucking do it. Get out there and crack on, because 95% of people give up as soon as it gets hard. And if you give up every time it gets hard, you're part of the 95% of people. And who do you want to be? I know who I want to be. And as David Goggins says, I don't want to be a useless piece of shit.
There was a point someone made that I was listening to the other day, and they were saying they felt everything felt quite overwhelming, and they felt that they weren't fully on top of everything, and they felt like they didn't have the tools to achieve what they wanted to achieve, and they were feeling not down, but kind of questioning if they were on the right path or anything, and should I really be doing what I'm doing right now? And then they came to the realization shortly after, being like, oh, this is what hard feels like. And you're like, oh shit, like this is the hard bit. This is when we're talking about, or when people have spoken about, I've worked hard for this point, I went through some hard times or whatever. He said, I'm in the middle of that right now. He's like, wow, this is fascinating. Because we're at this unique position to have all these people who've come from us before who've spoken about, I worked hard at this, I didn't sleep because it was a hard time, I was on hard times, I was doing all these difficult things, to be like, oh wow, I can intellectually really recognize that what that is. Then to be like, oh shit, I'm actually in the middle of that right now myself. And this is exactly where it should be. This is where you're being built. You're being built through the difficult point right now, and you're taking something that is not easy to do, and you're making it into something worthwhile because you're in that hard point. And it's natural to feel that self-doubt, to feel that slight overwhelmment, to feel like you don't have everything you need right there. But he went to be in that position to recognize that and be like, brilliant, just stay the course. And the only way to fuck it up is to just bail from it, as opposed to be like, no, this is exactly where I should be right now. I should be in this position that is difficult right now, and I should be feeling this pressure right now because, yeah, I'm in the hard bit. That's where I should be.
Well, I think it was Jordan Peterson that said you need, your duty as a male. I don't email him. I may have just added that part about being. But your duty
as a
is,
squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or a badger, whichever one you identify as these days. Is you've got to try and find the hardest weight or the heaviest weight you can bear, and bear it for yourself, your family, your community, and again, going back to my point earlier, is that motivates the people around you to think, well, fuck, if he can do it, I can do it too. And then you bring your brothers, your family, everyone around you, you bring them up with you. And we discussed before, it's great having personal success, but when you can have success with other people, friends, family, work colleagues, all that type of stuff, it gives real meaning to life. Who wants to be a millionaire, not the TV show. Who wants to be a millionaire if no one else around you can enjoy the same success? That'd be boring as shit, wouldn't it? You have to pay for everything, for one.
Or you'd be chasing fulfillment by buying meaningless trinkets.
Yeah. And I think that's what, going back to the consumerism society that I think a lot of us have been pushed into, we believe that if we get the trinkets, then we'll be happy. And I just don't really see how true fulfillment can come out of that.
I quite agree, but it benefits those big corporations for us to think that way, because that's the message they've been pushing on us,
and perpetuates their profits, which keeps them in business. Blah 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 blah.
Because when you
keeps the tax
revenue rolling in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because when you think about it, if you take the Oracle for example, off the top of my head, I could probably name 6 stores that have no intrinsic value. It's just the value that we ascribe to them, like jewelry stores.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point?
Yep.
We don't live in tribes anymore where we carry our wealth in the amount of gold we have around our necks, because that's how you carried your wealth on you.
Mm-hmm.
We have cyber money. But it's like, unless you are looking at it from a perspective of, oh, this is exactly what I'm going to invest in because I'm going to take the long-term view and it's going to appreciate in value, that's one thing. But equally, you would just buy it, stick it in a safe and don't look at it.
Yeah.
But if you buy it just for, oh, I fancied a new shiny thing to then show off as a status symbol, it's like, what is the point in that? What's the point in spending 15 grand on a watch that you're going to wear, get a scratch in it and be like, oh shit, I've got to repair this now?
No, exactly, yeah.
If you spend 15 grand on a watch and you put it in a safe and leave it there for 10 years and then it's 30 grand, you're like, okay, fair play.
Yeah,
I'm on board with that.
More the investment side of things.
Then I can completely get that mentality. But to have it and, overpriced, as we've talked about Will before, overpriced fucking t-shirts or trainers with a bit of plastic glued to the side of it just because it's that particular thing. It's just symptomatic of a level of decadence we've reached.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just do it for status, don't they? They think, oh, if I do this, then people will think better of me or more of me or whatever the weird rhetoric they have in their brains telling them to do that.
I was listening to Sami Zayn, who's a WWE wrestler. He was talking about something similar. He's a really interesting guy. He's Syrian, but he's a ginger.
Okay.
Which is wild. It's very interesting to listen to. But he was saying the same sort of thing. He said, "What I don't partake in any of that Louis Vuitton bollocks or anything like that." But he came to it, and it's an interesting point he came to. And he was saying how I don't respect anyone who buys into that or anything. I think it's ridiculous. But then he kind of ended it by saying, but then he said, but I haven't lived the life they've lived. So who am I to comment on their decisions for themselves? He said, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that it's wrong for them. He said, if they ask my opinion, I'm gonna tell them.
But is that because he comes from a different culture?
Different culture, different value system. Yeah, he grew up Muslim, so he's quite conservative about a lot of things to do with alcohol and excessive consumption of anything, and then public displays of wealth, etc. But I think that's really interesting that he just had that whole monologue about how he just doesn't like it at all. But then to be like, but then what does my opinion matter? Because he said I haven't lived their life, and he's like, if I had lived their life, I'd probably do the same thing.
Well, it's the same old adage, and this is one of my favourite sayings: is opinions are like arseholes.
Everyone's got them.
Everyone's got them.
Usually full of shit.
Exactly that. Exactly. And I won't lie. When I was younger, I was quite heavily opinionated, and I felt it was my duty to push my opinion. Until I realised from other people pushing their opinion, I could not give a fuck about your opinion. And then you realise, oh, maybe other people don't give a fuck about my opinion. And that's
no question at all.
Exactly, and that's when you realise you've got to rein it in. If someone asks me my opinion, I'll give it, but 99% of people aren't interested in your opinion.
My favourite whenever I catch myself thinking ill of someone else, or judge in judgment, not in malicious intent, that's something I always say to myself as a reminder: is your own house in order?
Yeah.
Like, are you so flawless as a human that you are capable or in any position to judge someone else? And the answer always is no.
Well, of course, yeah, no one is.
No.
So you stay in your lane. Keep doing what you're doing because again, everybody has different experiences and different requirements for their life, for what's going to make them happy, as we said. So stick to what you're doing. Go and get what you got to get for you and your family, and stay humble. Just ignore all the bullshit and rhetoric that comes from everybody else. Do what you got to do. I think that's a nice little way to end.
It's a beautiful ending, my friend.
Brilliant. Well, you got any final closing comments for us then, Matt?
Not at all. It's been I've enjoyed today, my friend. I feel like you've had a lot sort of brewing on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been very interesting to listen to. I'm glad that you've got everything that you set out. Obviously, there's more there, but I'm very glad that you've sort of expressed that all. It was an enjoyable dynamic, I must say.
Brilliant. No, I appreciate that, mate. Sometimes this is what I love about this podcast is, we get together, obviously we share it with everybody else and hope that they see value in what we do. But we'd be doing this shit anyway, whether anyone's listening or not. So that's
exactly.
The most important thing to me is that we get together and have these chats and hash out life
effectively,
and how great we are at it. Not
flawless.
Exactly. Completely flawless.
But together, our house is in order. This house is in order.
Yes, everything we do is fantastic. But no, I think that's it. We spoke about various different points. I would, to anybody who's interested in our main point of this podcast today, which of course was the motivation / discipline debate, is I would challenge you, if you haven't already, to set yourself yearly goals and targets and break them down into manageable chunks so that you can start achieving the type of life that you want to achieve, and start having real fulfillment in your life. If you can do that, we want to hear about it. Send us a message, chuck it on the Instagram, DM us, or put it in the comment section below, and we'd love to hear from you guys. But thank you very much, Matt. As always,
thank you, my friend. Thank you for everyone for listening. Been amazing.
This has been episode 9 of the Just Discourse podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and please remember to like and subscribe.
Peace out.
Take care, motherfuckers.